Wildfire to get to offer today a little bit of a different take. Our last two webinars have been more focused on research kinds of ideas, and today we're kind of breaking that trend and having a sort of commercial break by looking at online tools for resource managers. So while we let the last folks kind of log in, I'm going to just give a brief presentation about the North Atlantic Fire Science Exchange, and then we can get started. So again, we're the North Atlantic Fire Science Exchange. Hopefully you can see on your MyTel screen that we have a brand new logo, which is pretty exciting. And if you haven't noticed, we are the newest of the JFSP knowledge exchanges, and we are very excited to be part of this really important network of fire scientists and managers across the United States, and with partners in Canada as well. The North Atlantic Fire Science Exchange is critically important because while we're hearing about activities out west, the Northeast, as we know, has a lot of unique ecological challenges because of our high population densities and the predominance of suburbia across our landscape. So having a safe and sound, fire-safe landscape is of critical importance. When we surveyed our members, these are the words that popped up quite a bit: fire, people, hurdles, management, science, research, working, going, and scientists and managers together, information. So these are the kinds of things that we are trying to promote, conversation and better communication between fire scientists and managers to advance the safe and sound use of fire in our landscape. What do we do? Our goals are to catalyze collaboration between scientists and land managers, to facilitate communication flow and information on science and management, especially on issues and topics that are specifically relevant to the North Atlantic region. We want to innovate and try to help facilitate scientists and managers making innovative solutions to some of our unique problems. And also we want to consolidate existing research and adapt science for applicability in the North Atlantic. So these are the critical needs of our region in the North Atlantic. What do we do that through? We have research briefs. We offer newsletters. I hope all of you are receiving our newsletter. We offer webinars such as this one. We have a brand new website which you're going to be seeing a lot about today. We also have a research database and links to lots of other similar resources. We also offer field trips and also capstone workshops. And this is our leadership team. 3 of us are on the call today. You can see Nick, and you can see myself in the purple shirt, and Dr. Inga as well. Erin is busy taking care of her newborn son, so we can be very happy and excited for Erin Lane, who is our fearless leader in just about everything in this exchange. We also have a really great group of community representatives. This list is on our website as well. But you can see that we have a diversity of representatives that help keep us as a leadership team informed about activities and needs across our region, from state, federal, local, private, nonprofit, etc. So overall, in the words of Margaret Mead, never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has. So with that, thank you very much to everybody for being on the call today and being on this webinar. Before I mute the lines, are there any questions or any comments or technical difficulties folks are having? Dead silence. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor, if I can find Inga in our list there. I'm going to hand the floor to Inga, and she's going to get her desktop ready to share. Now, I need to let you know who is going to be your presenters today. So today we have Dr. Inga, who is a co-PI and is the North Atlantic Fire Science Exchange's Science Communications Director. So as Science Communications Director for the North Atlantic Fire Science Exchange, Inga uses newsletters, research briefs, and website materials to help facilitate relevant wildfire research and promote access to meaningful fire science. She is a spatial ecologist focused on how disturbances shape the trajectories of forest succession. Her most recent research has been focused on the modeling of forest disturbances such as fire and harvest in relation to human influences in land cover and management decisions. Inga's research in the past has spanned from leaf level to landscape level, and from invasive exotic species to remote sensing and carbon flux measurements of tundra. She has a PhD in ecology from Rutgers, where she focused on wildfire, climate, and land use in the Pinelands of New Jersey. So she's a great person to be delivering information to today. We also have Dr. Skowronski, who's our principal investigator. Nick Skowronski has been a research forester with the USDA Forest Service Northern Research Station since 2007. He has also served as a prescribed burn coordinator at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and as a research technician for the Northern Research Station. Nick's research is focused on the impacts that land management activities have on fuel loading, carbon cycling, and habitat quality. He's particularly interested in estimating canopy fuels in three-dimensional space using lasers on the ground and in aircraft. Having worked formerly in fire management, Nick is extremely interested in developing better relationships between scientists and land managers so that research can become more integrated with needs in the field. And with that, I am going to mute the lines, and I will go ahead and turn the floor over to Inga. Sorry, I made a little mistake on the slide there, Inga. I apologize for that.
That's okay. That's okay.
So just so folks know, one thing we could do. So we have a chat box. So right now, if you are able to type into the chat box, go ahead and type your name and who you work for, just to make sure this is working, and then hit enter. Everybody, give that a shot. And so throughout, you can type questions into the chat box. Great. And so let me mute the lines now. All right. So great. So there's a great list of folks here. So if you have questions during the webinar, I will be monitoring the chat box, and I'll try to let Inga or Nick, whoever's presenting, know that we have a timely question. We might try to save some of these questions for the end, and then Nick and Inga will definitely be able to address your question. And then after that, I can unmute the lines so we can have a conversation if we need to. All right. So another question I might ask folks in the chat box is, what's one thing you hope to get out of today's webinar presentation? Just a few words of what you're hoping to get out of the webinar today. And Nick and Inga can read through some of these responses and maybe incorporate them into all the stuff that they've got.
Okay. Should I go ahead then?
I took the floor back to delete my little silly mistake. So, sorry. I was wondering why the pacing thing wasn't working. Now I'm giving you the floor back. Okay. All right. Oh, this is great. Thanks, everybody. So I think we are good to go. Take it away, Inga.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for that wonderful introduction, Amanda, and thanks everyone for joining us today. This presentation is really kind of what we're all about. So I'm going to go through some of the online resources for fire managers and be focusing on the North Atlantic region. And then Nick's going to take it away and kind of give you a little perspective of how he thinks you can get information. So I wanted to kind of show you our little postcard that we have that we made up that we can hand out to people. And it's really just sort of a summary of what Amanda went over as far as our exchange is concerned. But number one, I want to look at the fire scientist side and notice that the arrows go both ways. And this is why we're called an exchange. So we want to exchange information both ways between fire scientists and fire managers. We want the fire scientists to conduct the relevant fire science, and we want the fire managers to use fire science for fire management decisions. Now, I've heard that there's a lot of wildland firefighters who don't actually think of themselves as land managers, but I would say that if you light a fire or fight fire, you are a land manager. You make decisions about how the landscape is going to be affected. And so we are here to provide you with the relevant scientific information that you can use to make some of those decisions on the ground. So basically, overview of this presentation, I'm going to take you through an introduction to our website. I'm going to go through some of the questions that we can answer via the website. So if you have questions about research, communications, events, models and tools, and then some of the links to other resources. So that's the basic, my part of the presentation that we're going to go through. So first, I want to just let you know what the URL is. So it's www.firesciencenorthatlantic.org. Okay, and what I'm going to do is go through the general organization of the website, the design process that we went through to get there, and then the content process that we went to. And then I'm going to show you also the California site so that you can see how these exchanges are all sort of using a similar design. All right, so right now I'm going to try to share my desktop, and hopefully you will be able to see my web browser. Amanda, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so here's the general organization. And what I'm going to do is just point out sort of the major points of the website. So first we have the home page, which we're on. It includes the featured events and webinars. You can see we have today's webinar on there. We have another webinar coming up in July on the responses of forests and fire to climate change and human activities. And we have these major tabs. So the events and webinars, the research and publications, the partners and tools, funding, community, and the about page. Up here we have a contact site. Can you see also the arrow on my computer?
Yes, we can see you're pointing.
Oh, great. Great. Okay, great. Just want to make sure. So you have the contact and then the Joint Fire Science link up here. On the side here you have topics, and what I wanted to mention about that is that during the design process, all of the exchanges across the country basically narrowed down all of these topics so that it's kind of like a menu that you would see, you know, in a McDonald's across the country. So all of the exchanges have the same topics and the same resource types, okay? So you can see all these different topics of anything you want to know about fire science, and then things like, you know, research briefs or models and tools, so the types of resources, the major categories. We also have featured research and publications down here. So these are things that are sort of more recent or interesting that we want to feature, and we'll be, I'll be changing some of those out so that we can highlight different things on the home page. We have that contact area down here, and we have our Twitter feed here. So I'll come back to that a little bit later, but I wanted to show you this map here. Amanda showed you how we have the network of exchanges throughout the United States through the Joint Fire Science Program. And what I'm going to do is just show you how if you just click on that, it'll take you to the site. And then if you go over here to California and click on there, you can see their exchange site, or they're still a consortium. You can see how similar it is to ours. And so it's got, you know, very similar. There's a few differences here and there, but this is going to be the design for pretty much everyone in all the exchanges. Okay. Now the content obviously is going to be a lot different based on the regional applicability. So, you know, we're all part of this larger network, and I wanted to just, while we're here at the Joint Fire Science website, is just mention that they have these wonderful publications that they've been accumulating through the years through the research that they've been funding. You know, if you look at the syntheses tab, you can see here the fire oak literature of Eastern North America. This is one of the things that I've highlighted in one of our newsletters. So, you know, you can find just a wealth of information here from Joint Fire Science. So going back to our web page, I wanted to talk about how I created the content. And I have to credit Bill Patterson because the Northeast Barrens website was sort of the basis for this website. So I used a lot of the links that he had on there to relevant organizations and the sort of the basic research that he had on that website. And so you'll see a lot of that information throughout. And then I added things like the newsletters, the research briefs that I've created, and the webinars we've had so far. We also have some of the new research that's coming out, and you can see here is a video of the prescribed burn in the pinelands on Nick's research project. So we can continue to add content as we get it. So what I'm going to do now is go back. Let's see. I can do this. Here we go. So we're back on the PowerPoint, and I'm going to talk about some of the questions that we can answer using the website. So I think I saw briefly in the question box, but one of the questions that I anticipated was like, where can I find research on wildfire in the North Atlantic region? Okay, and we have a research and publications tab, and I'm going to take you through a FRAMES database search and some of our own generated research, and then some interesting links to other sites. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop again and go back to the browser. Okay, so I'm here on the browser, and we're going to click on the Research and Publications tab. And you can see at the top we have this separated out, this FRAMES Eastern Fire Portal resources. So this is a search engine that leads the complete database of North Atlantic research. It's actually, you can get it for the entire country for wildfire research. But if you click on this, it will take you to the FRAMES website. You can see their eastern region is a little bigger than ours, and so some of these other exchanges are part of the eastern region. But if you go down just a little bit, scroll down, you'll see they have about 7,241 records of research in the eastern region, okay? So if you want to narrow that down, you type in New Jersey, for example, press the search, and you narrow it down. They have about 253 records that have the word New Jersey in it. If you want to narrow it down even further and put Nick's name in there, hopefully this works. Sometimes it's a little bit glitchy, but you can try different ways. So here, now we're down to 31 records. And they all have the words New Jersey and Skowronski in them. So these are all kinds of things: abstracts, papers, presentations, okay? Things that you might not be able to find elsewhere. And so just as an example, if you click on one of these, for example, here's a PowerPoint. So click on the record, get a little bit of description of what this record's all about. It's a proceedings from a conference. Then they have a link to the document. So you can go ahead and link to the document, and you see the PowerPoint that Ken and all these guys presented in 2007 at the East Fire Conference, okay? And so, if there's something that you're looking for, there's a good chance it's going to be here. And if the link is not there to the document, let us know, and we will try to get it on there through the FRAMES people. They're very helpful. So that is a good example of how to find research on the eastern region. And then the other things here we have are NAFSE research, so things that I have done, such as the the research briefs that I've been putting out. You can get to all of those here. So you just go ahead and click through, and there it is. Okay, so if you missed the research brief, you can go back and find it. Other things on here in the research and publications area are things like Lloyd Ireland's magazine articles on New England fire history, and other things. And so these are all the Northeast Barron's website links that we have in here. So this is one that we've transferred over with the Northeast Barron's description. And so, you know, this is just a great sort of Pine Barrens description, you know, with different stuff in here. So that Bill Patterson wrote. And so I have usually the author here at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go back and go back to the PowerPoint. So the next one, so how can I communicate to scientists or with other managers? So you have a question, you know, you think some sort of research might be out there to help you out, but you don't know who to talk to. So this is when, you know, our community tab will be helpful. So we have information on Facebook, so you can get information, but you can also post questions and get answers to your questions. Nobody has used that aspect of our Facebook page yet, and I really want to encourage you to do that. You know, I will be moderating the questions so that we don't get a lot of spam and stuff like that, but, you know, this is a great resource for getting any kind of questions or information that you think is useful to our community out there. I want to mention Twitter, and it's not just for kids anymore. It's actually a major source of science communication right now. If you put something on Twitter and a news organization picks it up, then it gets a lot more exposure than you would otherwise. And I just have to stress that the news organizations really they're searching through Twitter for stories. So we can use this to our advantage. We also have a contact us form, and I'll take you a little bit through that, and then the Flickr and the YouTube channel. So I'm going to share my desktop again and just show you some of these things. So the community tab right here, it has the Facebook feed in it. Okay, so if you're not on Facebook, that's okay. You can still see what's on Facebook here. And so you can see I had a ton of reminders about today's webinar. I have the Joint Fire Science funded projects that I did this year. You know, one of my favorite articles here about how fire means fewer ticks, and I think that's good for everyone. But if you don't have Facebook, if you do have Facebook, I encourage you to like our page, and you'll get the regular updates. But if you don't, you can still click on the links here and get to the information that, you know, we're trying to get out there. So here's the article on the ticks and fire. Okay, and so the next thing that I want to point out, if you go back to the home page, is the Twitter feed. And so a lot of times, like, I'll get posts from the other exchanges, and I'll retweet them here on Twitter. So here we have, for example, from the Great Plains Fire Science Exchange, with resources on the cost of wildfire suppression. So they have a webinar, a literature review, and an annotated bibliography, and you can click on the links directly from our webpage. You don't need to have Twitter to get to these links, okay? So this is all just more and more information that we can access in different ways. Going back to the community forum or tab, I wanted to highlight, this is another way you can do contact us in different ways. So down here, up here, so there's lots of ways to get to things on the website. So here, you can just send us a message. So for example, if you want to request a research topic or suggest an event or a webinar, you can do it through here. And these emails come directly to me, and I can try to connect you with the people I know that know about the topic. We're also having conference calls, focused conference calls on some of the topics that need a little more in-depth networking and trying to hook people up with each other. And then over here, this little red symbol here, that goes to our YouTube page. So if you missed a webinar, it'll be on here. So we have our past 2 webinars. And any videos that are on our website are going to be on here as well. Okay? So that's really useful if you miss something. Another way to communicate, and I have to say that, interesting events and situations that you find in the field, take a picture. Take a picture, and you can upload it here to our Flickr website if you are a Flickr member. If not, you don't have to be a Flickr member. You can send it to me, and I'll put it up here. Okay? So these are from the White Mountains that Aaron took. You've got stuff that Dave Crary took. You've got, so all these were submitted. Bob Williams took some of these, and then Nick took a bunch of pictures. So we've got really great shots all around our region. And if you do want to use some of these pictures, just make sure you ask the person. And let's see, let's go back to our questions. So the next question would be like, how can I find out about events that are happening in my region? And so this is sort of the events tab. So we'll have the workshops, the webinars, and then past events. Also, you can check Facebook and Twitter for events in other exchanges that might be relevant to our region. For example, the Oak Woodlands Exchange might have things that are still relevant to us, even though they're not exactly our area. So let's check out the Events tab. And over here, we'll do some of the past events first.
Hey, Inga, as a heads up, we might want to move a little bit just to make sure we get some of Nick's websites in as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm almost done.
Cool.
Okay, thanks. So we've got, the old webinars and then the old field trips, and then we've got upcoming events, that I mentioned. And I just do want to highlight the fact that we are having a November capstone workshop at Stockton University in New Jersey that's going to have presentations and field trips. So great way to keep up with what's going on in the region. I think what I'm going to do is, I wanted to highlight our Partners and Tools site. And so what you can do is you can find all of these partner organizations. So looking at the Association for Fire Ecology, they have an open access journal. So you can find anything you would like there. If you click on the Wildland Fire Training site, each of these has a small description of what it is. So it lists all the available training courses across the U.S. and provides access to registration for those courses. And then here you can visit the site, okay? So there's all kinds of links here to outside organizations. You can essentially search for any term that you're looking for, and it should be there. If the link is not there, let me know and I will add it. So there's things like the fire site model, the smoke modeling tools, and we will continue adding more and more links to outside links and organizations and and tools that you can use. Okay, and I think I'm pretty much done there. So I just wanted to I can skip ahead a little bit here. So so I wanted to mention that this website is dynamic in nature, and we're going to continue to add content, and suggestions are fully welcome. So if there's something that you want on there that's not on there, just let me know, and I'll get it on there. Okay, so and it's actually great to check back, see what the events are coming up, the new research, and I'll constantly sort of be pointing back to the website via the newsletters and the research briefs and that sort of thing. So that's my general overview. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna let Nick take the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Inga. If anybody has questions, I haven't seen any in the chat box yet, but again, feel free to type them. I have just handed Nick the floor, so Nick is about to share his desktop and show us some more specific sites. But in the meantime, our website we're trying to link to everything useful out there. So Nick's got a lot to show us, but
we're not going to get through all that, that's for sure. Okay, so Inga, that was awesome. I want everybody to know Inga's been really kicking that website behind. She's had a lot of adversity to overcome just because of the sort of hierarchical nature of things with dealing with the Wildfire Science full exchange network. And so we've been kind of stuck in neutral for the last couple months just because we were waiting for them to kind of get their acts together. And unfortunately, because we were new, we were the only exchange without a website. So it has been overly frustrating, and that was a fantastic walkthrough. And I'm very impressed. Good job, Inga.
Thanks.
So we wanted this to also highlight some of the sort of models and tools that are available, not just in the Northeast U.S., but also the Western United States and maybe even internationally, that would be helpful. And so there's a lot out there, and there's no way I'm going to even touch on 10% of it. And I've sort of struggled. I've been sort of nervous wreck about this all week for some reason. And I guess the way that I wanted to approach this today was if I was almost back at Fort Dix and I was a 22-year-old kid again trying to figure out where we were going to burn and why we were going to burn it. And I think that that's sort of the best progression for me to go through some of these tools. And I really want to start. There's a couple other sites, and so we're going to have all of these sites that I go through today. We'll distribute a list to you all. And we'll also make sure that the really relevant ones are linked. There's a few in here that probably won't be linked on our site, but 99% of these will be linked in that Modeling and Tools tab on the NAFSE website. So there's these two other sites that I just wanted to point out really quickly that are wonderful aggregations of a bunch of work that the Rocky Mountain Research Station has done, and that's this firelab.org applications page. And you can see on here a lot of the old familiar names of different modeling applications and different weather tools. And so sort of when in doubt, go to the NAFSE page and click on this one. It's a good resource, and the Fire Lab's been doing this for 50 years, so it's a good place. The other site that's sort of a good aggregator of the things that are going on at the Pacific Northwest Research Station of the Forest Service is this Fire and Environmental Resource Application Team site. And they have a bunch of different products, and they've actually come up with this sort of the Fire and Fire Tool, or Fuel and Fire Tools, and it's a software application that aggregates all of their consumed data, all of their FCCS, fuel characteristic classification system data, which I'll show you a little bit of here, but these are two good ones to start with. And so back to my sort of scenario as being a land manager and what to think about, as you're managing your landscape, and sort of the first thing that you need are these sort of biophysical parameter data sets, tree height, tree species, fuel models, topography, and locally I think that there's a lot of really rich data sets out there, but they're somewhat dispersed and difficult to access, and in a lot of places there's no data available. And land fire is a lot of things. One of the best things that land fire is that it's consistent, and if it's consistent and accurate all the time, I'm not quite so sure, but that's sort of up to your professional judgment. But it's a great place to start. Landfire provides all of these sort of spatial data sets and data layers in one place. And so this is the sort of the main Landfire website of the USGS. But if we click on this data distribution box down here, we can pull the viewer. And I already have it up over here, so we'll speed things along a little bit. But this is sort of a zoom in of the Northeast with New Jersey in the center there. And, you can see over here on the right-hand side the different data products that are available. And so this data product is 30-meter resolution of the 13 fire behavior and fuel models from Anderson. So it's really spatially consistent. It's a great place to start if you want to run a fire model moving forward. Now, again, it's sort of the last resort. If you have better data, local data, it's probably better than this. And so you can see over here where this data download is. So we'll just move on from that. Again, I'm trying to crank through these things a little bit. The second way that you can get Landfire data is there's actually an ArcGIS toolbar that's been developed at this point, and they'll work with ArcGIS 9 and ArcGIS 10. So you can just add this into ArcView and work within your extent and pull the data that way from the national database. So that's a very very useful tool, and it helps to provide coverages that many of us don't have fully. So that's sort of this is what the land looks like, sort of spatially. So if I was going to put a burn somewhere, how would I decide to do that? Now, if I started to zero in a little bit on sort of a fuel type or fuel classification, in the Northeast, there has been some work done by the Fire Effects Research Application team, this digital photo series work. And these were originally not digital. And I think Erin has a copy of the Northeast if you want one. She has actually 800 of them. But it's online now, so you don't need that. Maybe she'll, use them for something, bookmarks. And so you can come onto this site and you can click, and these plots here are different places where this team basically went and took a stereoscopic photo, and they went in and they totally tore apart the fuels within those photos. So, like if we look down here in New Jersey, just because I actually helped with some of these, and so did Mike again, and this is a particular, I don't think Mike was around yet, Mike Gallagher, but Ken Clark was. This is a particularly fun site in the Pine Plains, and we spent about a week and a half going through here and basically pulling this apart. So you can look at this picture and get an idea of what the fuels are within that photo. So another good resource. So then, as a fire manager also, when you're selecting where you're going to burn, you want to kind of look at burn histories and try to incorporate the landscape, what's happened in the past. And unfortunately, this is another data set that is just not very consistent nationally. Inga basically spent a good portion of her PhD aggregating only the prescribed burn data for the New Jersey pine barrens and the wildfire data. And it's probably one of the best data sets available in the Northeast as far as fire history goes spatially. There's not very much consistency going on, but as technology has been increasing, there's more and more of a push for that. And so this is this ArcGIS. It's a U.S. wildfire activity map, and they're pulling in fire data. This is sort of an aggregator. They're actually pulling it in from GeoMac, which is this Geospatial Multi-Agency Coordination Center. And we can look here and we can see these active fire perimeters. These are all KMLs. So if I double-click this, it should work. Download. How about that? And I pull this in. It'll come straight into my Google Earth, and it will show me where the active fires are right now. So I can zoom in. This is that Mud Lake complex in Florida. So this is sort of, 1 or 2 day old data that's available automatically on the web. So here you see some other perimeters that are recent. So a good place. CAL FIRE actually does this also. They have an automatic KML update that works out really well. So you can get a really good idea of what their recent fires were and what's actively burning. The sort of the gold standard would be to have that for all fires that happen. And unfortunately, we don't have that. One of the only ways that we've been able to get that historically is this Monitoring Trends and Burn Severity website. And this actually uses spectral reflectance data from Landsat to do, it's the difference normalized burn ratio. So they take Landsat images of the known fire perimeters and they will provide a burn severity raster output. And you can see that down there and get that get MTBS data. And I'm not totally sure. I think it's 1,000. I'm not sure what the sizes are. The fires in the Northeast are about half the size of the fires in the West. There's a category, like a cutoff. So a 5-acre fire in the Northeast is not going to get mapped and end up in this database. I think it has to be over a half a kilometer squared or something like that. So, but again, this is sort of historic data. It's updated relatively frequently, and it's available online for historic fire perimeters and severity. Very good tool. For basic ecological tools, we have the Fire Effects Information System, which has been around for many, many years, and it's a great fire ecology primer if you're going to focus a prescribed fire on some kind of management objective, and you're concerned with can't spell when I talk. Kind of focus it on pitch pine, my favorite tree. You can pull this up and you can click on this, and it will basically give you a basic description of pitch pine, of all of the sort of life history, life cycle, the distribution, the ranges, everything. And it'll do this for many, many different species. So it's a really wonderful tool that's still around. It's sort of hung on, and you can see this sort of bibliography down here, so you can go back to the primary literature if you'd like to. The second tool that I wanted to talk about here for the effect of the fire that you're implementing would be this Consume 4.2. It basically is going to give you the opportunity to model the expected benefits of your fire, what part of the fuel that you expect to lose, how much duff, how much litter, how much into the canopy you're expecting to burn off. It will give you particulate emissions and things like that also, based on your fuel moistures and the local meteorology and loading. So it's a very cool, like, sort of point estimate of what you're going to get, good for management plans. This is another tool, the FVS, that has it's a forest vegetation simulator, and it was developed for silviculture, but it has a fire and fuels package associated with it now. So you basically would take plot level data and you would project that data out, and you could then do different fuel treatments within that data set. And Bill Zipsey in New Jersey has been using this frequently to sort of justify some of the treatments that have been going on there. It's a great tool. I mean, it's a model, so all models are wrong and some are useful, but it's out there. I'm just going to briefly touch on Farsight and FlamMap. Farsight is the fire spread model that the U.S. Forest Service has used for the last 20 years or so. It's sort of, I don't want to say it's the gold standard, but it's the accepted standard. It's pretty computationally difficult to use, but it's interesting to play with. There's sort of a little brother to Farsight that's called FlamMap, and FlamMap basically doesn't grow the fire sequentially through time. It gives you the highest probability of burning based on your inputs, based on the highest amount of wind and lowest fuel moistures that you anticipate. So that gives you the opportunity to sort of target on the landscape without having to do the computationally intensive work with Farsight. What else do I want to show you guys to be sure I don't want to get too much longer here. So this is the Wildland Fire Assessment Center. They have a really cool tool that shows you greenness based on satellite data. So it's showing like a departure. So the green areas have pretty much, I think, gotten a decent or droughty. I'm not sure which way it works. You have to check the legend. But basically, that's showing the departure from the average green index right now. So you can see spatially at pretty high resolution where there's been absence of rain, not through weather data, but actually through spectral reflectance data. So greenness. It's pretty interesting. And then another cool thing that they have here for accessing the ROS data is this really cool Google Earth tool that shows all of the ROS data, all the ROS stations across the country. And it's actually showing right now where it's droughty, I believe. So you can see some red ones over there in the western United States. But if we zoom in, say this one in central New York, we can click right here in Google Earth and come up with a weather summary for right now and for today's observation and also for the forecast for tomorrow. So it's a really cool spatial tool to look at that sort of nasty to handle ROS data. So pretty cool. I just came across this yesterday. I'm just going to leave that on there. National Weather Service also provides a bunch of KML data, KMZ data that goes spatially into Google Earth. They have fire weather forecasts that are that way, and they also have an interesting KML that's sort of similar to the one I just showed you, but it's actually for spot weather forecasts. So you can download, if you click on this current spot weather site, it'll basically produce a map of all the spot weather forecasts that have been produced in the last 24 hours. And you can then zoom in and click on those. So if it's close to where you're burning, or if everybody's sort of burning around you, and you want to look at what their forecast was, how it was different, what you could expect for yours, you could click on that spatially and pull up that spot weather forecast. So it's really cool access. One of the more basic but yet useful sites is this, and this is sort of an example for maybe what other states could do in our region. It's just basically all of the relevant meteorological stations in New Jersey that we've identified as having something useful to say about fire danger. And this is a really fast-loading website. We used to do this on dial-up, and it's been rather invaluable. And it's one of the longer-term things that we have going right now in New Jersey, so it's pretty cool. So that's the weather side of things. And so the last thing I really wanted to talk to you quickly about is this idea of monitoring. It came up in our review that everybody wants more monitoring of prescribed burns afterwards. When we sort of asked around what was the thing that they were all concerned about. And one of the real issues with that monitoring is sort of the protocols that you're going to follow, and then the databasing that's going to happen. And in the West, this FFI, which it's basically based on the old FireMon program, which is a fire monitoring program. It's just a really cool sort of standalone software system, and you can basically set up query sheets of plot level information that you want to know, and set up a standardized sampling protocol for your area. It also has a GIS interface, and you can actually also hook these into like an automatic data logger. So this is a really cool way that takes into account Brown's interplanar transects. It'll calculate those downward debris things automatically, and so we don't really have to reinvent the wheel if we want to do more monitoring. We just have to get out there and do it. So this is another tool that's available. And finally, the last thing, and I'll keep this one brief also, is that there's a new initiative by Joint Fire Science. It's not really that new, but it's not mature yet. It's sort of in a beta test. It's called the Interagency Fuel Treatment Decision Support System. And, this is sort of a layer of land fire again, but the idea behind this is that this is like a one-stop shopping center for you to go and online basically input your burn block, grab the land fire data, run the fire models, and come up with an output. And, it is beta right now. But if you go to this Sonoma Tech website, they'll give you a password so that you can use this, and it's really cool. And I really encourage people that are doing fuels treatments and fuels planning to try to play with this at least, because it's all in one place. All the data download and all the model runs and everything, and it would be really vital for us as sort of the Northeast U.S. to have a role in how this thing ends up being. If we're missing something, if they're missing a component that we have or we would want, then now is the time to be testing it. I played around with it this morning a little bit, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, I was able to do a Farsight run for this site in New Jersey, Scott Nauer's site in New Jersey, and I know he's on there. But it only took me about 10 minutes to come up with the perimeter, to download the land fire data, and to come up with a burn probability for this. I don't know, it's about 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer site. So to do that with FlamMat or with Farsight in the past would have taken weeks. It would have taken weeks to do it, even with good data. And the really cool part is that it does it all on their server, and then gives you the data back And you can upload custom data sets to this also. So I guess this is sort of maybe where things are headed with as far as like online usability and tools. It gives a really cool report, and I don't know. It seems like a really interesting way to look at what we're doing and to come up with intelligent design behind our burn processes. So anyway, that's all I have. Sorry if I ran over.
No, you're great. That's a lot of information.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. I was like digging, and it was like, I got to show this too. But I appreciate everybody who stuck around.
Yeah. So I want to ask one question. So linking your two presentations, so are all these resources that Nick just showed us linked to from our website?
Not all of them yet, but they will be as soon as
yeah.
Very soon.
This presentation was in flux until about 3 hours ago, so.
Well, I guess that shows that we're getting the latest in fire science data. So it's exciting that you've got all these resources, and we'll be sure to link them to our website in the near future, our dynamic website.
That's right.
All right, great. Yeah, thank you, Nick and Inga, for that presentation. I didn't see any big questions coming into the chat box. One of the comments earlier, someone was hoping to get out of this presentation how best to invest my time in available resources to produce meaningful outcomes where and when needed. Also prepping for an upcoming presentation to Northern Research Station, looking for current and emerging issues to speak about by listening on today's webinar. So I don't know if Nick or Inga, if either of you wants to speak to that a little bit. And if Inga, if you need the floor back to show something on your desktop, just let me know.
I mean, I think some of this is just stuff we talk about amongst ourselves, about the northern long-eared bat and, some of the more recent issues that we're trying to figure out the best way to kind of keep those up to date and on the website, on Facebook, and find the best information for people to be able to have some sort of background on the current and emerging issues. So yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it, and I think we're going to have several outlets for that kind of information to be updated and for you to be able to find it.
Yeah, Owen, I'm struggling with the same question for my presentation, so I don't know at that meeting.
Great.
I mean, we do have a list of topics that came up in our discussions over the last year or two while we were getting off the ground, and areas that we were supposed to that basically are, I don't want to say constituents, but basically the fire management agencies and the fire practitioners in the Northeast were concerned with, or research needs, and we have that. That's available. So if we could provide that, then that would be helpful. That would be fantastic.
Cool. Stephen Maurer also made a quick question/comment. How many of those modeling programs are web-based versus locally run? Have a difficult time installing software on computers? I think we can all relate to that. Yeah,
a lot of it is going this app-based world, and the Forest Service, of course, is 5 years, and so is BLM and everybody else 5 years behind actually having it on your iPhone. I'm sure you could run Farsight on your iPhone pretty quickly, probably faster than on my Forest Service laptop. But a lot of them are going to that. Those ones that I showed you, the FARA, that's all like a standalone program. This IFTDSS that I just showed you at the end there, that's web-based. So it's hit or miss, and everybody is running into those same problems. So 50-50, Steve, something like that.
Yeah, but it's great that all these tools are out there, and I guess we'll try to keep as new ones come out, then we'll try to keep them all updated on our website. So that'll be a good resource to look to for the latest. I saw Joel had made a comment earlier. I'm going to try taking the phones off of mute for just the last few minutes. And so, Joel, I forget where, it was like right before the FEIS section, where you made a comment about 500 acres for the whole East. So let me try unmuting. Let's see if this works. All right. Can anybody besides the presenters talk?
This is Joel.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, that was just in reference to what Nick was saying about the minimum mapping for the satellite imagery for wildfires. I believe it's 500 acres for the eastern part of the United States is what they're using.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's 500 to 1,000, Joel.
Yeah, which unfortunately, if there's a 500-acre fire in the eastern part of the United States, everybody's going to lose their mind on average, with a few exceptions.
Yeah, well, there's resolution problems with it. I mean, that works really well in big fires, and smaller stuff is more difficult.
Cool. While the
Hey,
floor
Nick,
is
this
open,
is Maris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Nick, do you know who else is going to go to that Northern Research Station research outreach from North Atlantic Exchange besides you, Owen Martin, and Tom Gerber? Is anybody else going?
Ken Clark will be there. Mike Gallagher will be there.
Okay, good. Well,
Yeah,
I can go and put a note on there if you guys could maybe all connect by phone and maybe talk about a strategy before you go out there.
That sounds fantastic.
Awesome. Do we have other comments or questions from folks on the line? All right. So I guess a final question I might have, if you want to type in the chat box, do you feel like you would know where to begin to find the answers to questions you have about resources or research or background information for fire scientists and managers in our region? You can just type right into the chat box. Or if you still have a question, please feel free to type that in or speak up now. That works too. Tom Parrott says, better than an hour ago. All right. Yeah, one of the great things about this exchange is, oh, good. Yeah, one of the great things about the exchange is that, as Inga said about the website, is it's dynamic. So we want to facilitate communication. So even if you're on this and you have ideas about other resources you want to put people in touch with, or if you can think of a way we can do things better, or anything, please get in touch. We are very human, and we want to help facilitate better communication in our landscape. Great. Let's see. We just have a couple more minutes. I think that I and our presenters can stay on the line. Do we have any final questions and comments coming in from? Let's see. I don't see any final questions in the chat box. Do we have any other final questions on the over the phone line? Okay, great. All right. Thanks everybody so much for joining us, and thanks again to Nick and Inga for presenting. This is a really good webinar, and again, this will be recorded, or it's been recorded, and we'll post the recording on our website. Thanks so much, everybody.